All right, well, let's get right into it. First of all, it's great to see you and great to be here with you in person. And I am very envious of your shoe wear right now in comparison to mine.
Thank you, Chris.
Shout out to New Balance. So I figured we'd just start off our chat today by talking a little bit about you and your journey. You have been described as someone who specializes in digital transformation and storytelling. And I work for an audio company, as you do too, so love the storytelling aspect. But, you know, you've been with many different companies, Viacom, Disney, Under Armour, Ralph Lauren. Tell us what brought you to Bose.
First of all, thanks for having me. I'll try to make this interesting because we don't have any press here, so I'll say all kinds of things that will be controversial and lively. You don't need to hear another blah, 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 but thanks for having me. It's real simple. I'm a huge, passionate music fan. Like, the two things that were most important to me in my life were sports and music growing up, and that never went away. I found the brand at 15, and it was the first piece of audio equipment that I ever had. Because it was starting to get a little bit tenuous listening to the records that I had in the living room with the rest of the family. So, you know, be able to tuck that up in my bedroom was important. And there was a massive opportunity that, you know, who wouldn't want to take this iconic brand and, you know, put it back on the mantle where it deserves to be for, you know, the 15-year-olds out there that were like me.
And I know I read that you would listen to the Pixies. What's your genre of choice when it comes to music?
I don't know. There's a genre of choice, but it's extreme in all genres, right? I listen to a lot of experimental, and I listen to a lot of reggae, and I listen to a lot of indie, and I grew up on, like, you know, 80s punk rock, and so I move in all those directions, and I think most are sort of probably on the edges.
Cool. So, and you started in January of 2021, which was, who knew? I was probably right in the middle of the pandemic, right? So tell us what that experience was like, starting a new job in the middle of all that.
All right, it was fucking wild, right? I mean, did anybody else move during the pandemic? Yeah, all right. So the two things that I found, it was super strange when I left Under Armour. Because the close circle of people that I dealt with on an everyday basis, there were those moments of saying goodbye via you know, Zoom or whatever you're using, but it's all the other people, those next, you know, sort of concentric circles that move out that I didn't get a chance to talk to because there just weren't opportunities to do that. And so I started to get emails from people in my personal email saying, hey, I was looking for you to invite you to this meeting and didn't realize you left, right? And it was it was really strange. So that was an odd ending, right? It didn't feel like there was great closure on that ending. There wasn't any ceremonial, I'm carrying a box out, you know, with all of my shit in it into the car. None of that happened. So that was a little odd. Then you start a new gig and you're meeting everybody one-on-one Zoom, and you're starting to, like, how do you start to bring people on this journey of change? It's going to be very different going brand first in an engineering company. And that was, you know, at first, like, I'm doing all of this in my dining room over and over and over again. And it wasn't until I came up here last April for the first time, literally pulled in front of the office and walked in, did I feel like, holy shit, I have a new job, right? And so that was odd, but interesting in the sense that it gave me much more one-on-one time with people, and my boss, my peers, my team, that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise, because I would have been doing this in larger venues. And I don't know if it probably helped with some level of emotional connection.
It's interesting that it would help, because some may see that it's harder, right? Like just getting to know people over Zoom. But you're right, you do have a little bit more one-on-one time. And I think you're right, too, when people come and go during that pandemic, when you've never even met them in person, and sometimes people work there and then they've left, and you're like, what happened to that guy? And you find out because they're you get an email bounce back. So
Well,
definitely
and you
odd
think
times.
there are people there that you would never see again and never had the opportunity to say
Right.
goodbye. It's odd.
Yeah, definitely odd. Well, before we kind of get into some specifics about the brand and the Bose brand, let's talk a little bit about audio, because again, we're both in the audio industry. And as we were chatting yesterday, it's nice to see this kind of renaissance with audio happening right now. What do you think is driving that, and then how are you leaning into that?
Well, first, it's people's overwhelming desire to consume content, right? Like that's not gone away; it's exploded, and I think the ability to personalize that content in a one-on-one manner has really elevated the consumption of content. It's not like you're forced with your choices with family to sit down and watch a thing. I think that's led to a lot more content consumption, the availability and the ease in all of its formats, and how people in different watching, listening occasions are taking advantage of that. And then the pandemic, right? So you had more time. You had more time. This is the first time anybody's ever said I needed a mic. Apologize. It's the first time that I think that when you're in there and you're absorbing all this content with all that free time, it leads you to a bit of fatigue. Like if you look at the data, and Netflix is now with subscribers and usage, and it's not just the competition. I think people get viewing fatigue, and so they start to then play video games, and they start to look for other listening occasions that audio will fill the bill for deeper storytelling. And then I think there's just a whole lot of great content out there in the audio sphere, whether it's more music that can be super personalized and tailored to your tastes, or like the incredible storytelling that's happening, whether it's from business news or just interesting dramas that are being told via podcast. So I think all of those things are filling incredible needs and voids, and I don't know, it feels like there's a huge renaissance now in audio.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's amazing. Name tags coming off there. Amazing just how many podcasts there are now available. And it's just the content, the increase in content is amazing. So, let's talk a little bit about the brand mission at Bose. And I think your background is interesting, your passion for the product. Again, your experience going back to when you were a teenager, listening to music. Curious how that plays into the mission. But, tell us a little bit about the focus of the brand.
The exciting thing is, it's exciting and terrifying is it was clear we had to rediscover the mission, right? The brand was so powerful for so long. And it lost its way a bit with the competition of the world coming in there, right? Big tech, borders dropping, the way that sound is integrated into every aspect of our life, the explosion in consumption of digital audio. And so they had to have health. They had to have all of these tentacles out there in the world. And I think sometimes, people think about a pivot or an evolution, and they lose their focus on their core. And what became so exciting and clear for me was that it's very clear what we have to do. Like, this company is solely focused on the love of music, the love of sound. That's all we do. We don't treat music as an accessory. The other guys, they make laptops and phones and refrigerators and washing machines, and they do that really well. They create these ecosystems that if you don't really give a shit about music, it's fine. It's simple, it's easy, you plug in, I got it. I understand, great products. But if you really deeply care about music, there should be no other brand, because we have spent 50 plus years focusing on those audio occasions that just drive people, give them this emotional enabler to alter their state of being, whether it's I want to wallow in the misery of my sadness right now, whether I want to elevate the mood of this dinner party, whether I'm working out and I can't get through this last mile and running, is such a huge role. And so I think it was up to us to really make sure that the company, the outside world understands that we're mission driven and that sound is the most powerful force on earth, and it is our superpower. And we have to deliver that through every product and experience and interaction that we have.
I love it. kind of answers a little bit of my next question, but I guess I'll pose it this way. So, because you touched on it, and I see this especially over the last 2 years with the pandemic. So, consumer habits have changed. Everything that's happening in the audio space, more content, more listening occasions. Has Bose changed the approach to the marketing strategy to like deliver that message and get like, how do you get through with all these new products out there in the market? And just again, consumer habits changing. What's been shifts in your approach?
Well, look, it's hard. It's hard in what we do, and you got to have the courage of your convictions that if you create good content and you're looking at the metrics on what people think is good content, and it's around the brand filters that you create, right? Like I have authority to talk about music with this brand, right? I may not have authority to talk about other things, but with music, I have a ton of authority. And if we create content in that realm that is additive, that earns the time and attention of somebody, that's a win. Because, yeah, there's advertising that you need to do. But to me, that serves more of a purpose as you're moving down either very, very broad or general awareness to understand that there's something new for you, or at the very end when you're looking to drive some level of conversion and ultimately helping people corroborate the emotional decision that they've already made. But all that stuff in the middle, which is large, which is hard, and most finance people don't understand it because the math isn't finance friendly. There's a little bit of art and there's a little bit of science and there's a leap of faith, and it takes time, but you got to create incredible content and incredible experiences, and the experiences need to generate content to be able to afford and make those experiences worthwhile. It's hard to do, but when you do it well, and around areas where your brand should own, or you feel that you have this authority, or the people tell you that you have authority, then you better do it incredibly well. And I think if you do that consistently, it easily sends up this flag for those legion of passionate people, whether it's around like sneakers or running with New Balance or audio with us. That if you really care about this, then like we get you, right? We get you and we're for you. And that starts to make it safe for more and more people that feel that way to wear your products or use your products.
And do you tap into user-generated content, or does the content you're putting out there, do you encourage that so that those that are passionate about the brand share their experiences?
I mean, all right, so since it's just us, like most UGC sucks, right? It's terrible. It's great if people are talking about you, but most of it's terrible. There are elements in there where you can take advantage, but I think that's super opportunistic. I think most of the time it's looking for really good digital content creators or people that you want to align the brand with and build the brand with and have them create content for you rather than random people out there. Like there is some that's excellent and great, but for those of you that even around passion points, like when I was in the entertainment business and people are passionate about these programs or movies or franchises, even then the content you create is marginal, so you can't really rely on that all the time. That's nice if you get it.
Yeah, no, totally hear you on that. So, obviously a big focus is on the customer experience. Is there any, without sharing any trade secrets, there's no press here anyway, but, do you have any, what do you rely on from a research standpoint or insights that tell you you're doing the right thing? Or is it just more, like you said, a secret sauce if it's a little bit gut?
So I come from a strategy background, so it's hard for me to say this, but like sometimes a great idea is just great and forget the strategy, and it's just magic. That's sometimes. You cannot rely on that all times. But I think, look, research provides you guardrails and guidance in areas to dig deep. Research is not going to tell you this experience is going to be magical. You need to push and drive and create. And if you are the person that you're marketing to, or you really understand the people that you're marketing to, you can understand what's important to them and the little things that are really, really authentic to them that will signal that you understand them, that you really love what they love, that you get them, that they can understand how your brand will help them be happier or fill some emotional void or elevate them in their need states. but in doing that, you really have to understand the consumer. And so I think it's digging into those areas of opportunity, need, authenticity, and then how do you just have great, creative, talented people that create these magical experiences? They kill. And we've all seen them. We've done, and I don't know if we want to cue up.
Want to jump to that right now?
Yeah. Just real quickly, I'm going to show you this. There are two real quick experiences. They're consistent. It's not one moment in time. You're going to see this over and over and over throughout the years with us and what we do. But these are just a couple of quick examples of the way you can create not heavily burdensome, expensive experiences in a really interesting way that send very specific messages to the type of consumers you want to attract.
Great. We're going to just kick that off with a short video, and then we'll talk more about that. Very cool. So this is Record Store Day in Austin.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, if we're not integrated into Record Store Day, then I don't know what the hell we're doing, right? Like, it's like, who do you think goes to independent record stores on Record Store Day, right? Like, absolutely tip of spear of our audience. And so the guy that I think you're going to hear from next is responsible for all this. But it's creating moments there. You go to the right place for it. Austin makes sense. That's where we would do it. In a really well-known indie record store, we create a little listening lounge that was so popular and so great that they're just going to leave it up permanently for us, for people to check out records and hang out in this little listening space. We get two emerging artists, Surfaces and Dayglow, that have like a small but hardcore fan base. Very much a signal that within that genre, like, we're tapped into, these breaking artists, sends a huge signal to those people, create a little performance, and all this content comes out of it that then is pushed out by those artists, by the people that are there, which is fine in their feeds, right? And then the stuff that we cut up and do. And we're doing something similar, to a different audience and a different target. But with the Prince experience in Chicago, we'll be traveling to New York, where there's this very, very deep level of integration into his legacy and what our brand meant to him and what he meant to all of us that were fans of him. It's continuing. Not everybody's going to be a Prince fan. Not everybody's going to understand Record Store Day. But by continuing to do this every single week in interesting places, one after the next, after the next, after the next, and a commitment. Some are going to be bigger than others. Some moments are going to be bigger than others. It's just a different vibe than, like, here's this product and we have better noise canceling than anybody else. Got it. Right? Like,
yeah.
You need that somewhere down the line, but not for this, right?
Yeah,
and
super
it's a
cool.
it's a great, like, when you think about, like, the integration with the Prince estate, it's like what Chris and team did with Levi's and collabs and making it interesting to create brand into tangential audiences and saying, like, no, we understand the role that we play in your lives and we're going to accentuate that. And that's exciting and interesting for people because they don't really give a shit about us otherwise. They just don't.
I was going to say, yeah. I don't mean to say, like, yeah, they don't give a shit about you guys, but I think it's a great way to have such an immersive experience to so many different audiences. I mean,
that's why you remind them what you do for them,
right?
Because
yeah.
Otherwise, they go about their day. They go about their
Yeah.
day. They go about their day. I mean, wherever it is, you can find it in any, like, brand reinvigoration. There's the slide that everybody pulls at 85, if you poll consumers, 85% of the brands in their lives, if they disappeared, they'd never miss them and not even know they're gone. Like, it's like slide 2 in the presentation after the agenda.
Right.
It's true.
Well, I think to hit them at their passion point, like in a real immersive experience in a meaningful way, is memorable. And
agreed.
and you know, they really picked the right guy for that. Like your background and passion that you bring to the job, like your ability to speak to the consumer.
Well, can I just like jump on that for a sec? Like, so I used to think I was in love with the craft, and I do love the craft. But if you have to do that against products that aren't meaningful for you, it's really hard to muster the same kind of energy and enthusiasm. I tried it once, and it didn't go so well, and it's really hard. And I think if you can bring that passion and enthusiasm for a brand or an industry that means something really like a lot to you, then there's just a different level of work. There's a different level of creativity. There's a different, like, what's acceptable when you'll push out the door changes. It goes to here. And if you can set that tone, be that beacon for other people, like, this is what we're creating, it's a lot more fun and exciting, right?
Yeah, totally. Tell us, I mean, a little bit about Bose and the company culture. You've got this beautiful, still relatively new building across the street. Amazing product. What is a company culture like? What is it like to work there?
It is vastly different, or was vastly different from where I had been before. Bose was not, they're not a marketing company. And I think that there was a struggle to understand the role of marketing. I think they defined it more as, it was definitely an engineering-driven company, which typically marketing is an expense line and or the impediment to the product manager's glory, I have found. And I think that they looked, I'd say the way I'd summarize it is Bose looked at marketing as an episodic sales support lever, right? What are we doing in store with a promotion? What are we going to do with this signage on this display? Rather than creating incredible demand pool for the brand upstream. And that's a different game. And I think, and it's very different than their heritage, because at one point in time, they were incredible at marketing, but it was a different game. There were less products, there were less media verticals, and to get into those media verticals, it was expensive and costly. And you know, anytime that you have a deep relationship with an institution like MIT, you know it's going to be quantitative and scientific. So, like, you know, direct marketing, they were the kings at it, and they were really, really, really good. Pivoting to this world where we're creating stories to help become more relatable for the role that we play in people's lives is a bigger change. And I will, like anything, when you're driving change, it is a very systematic approach to leading that change through the company, and you have to have the stomach for it, and there are going to be fits and starts and challenges.
5 minutes. I'm going to ask you one final quick question, just kind of bringing it full circle again to audio-driven companies here. I know you're a big podcast guy, so what are you listening to lately among your long list of podcasts?
So I listen to a ton of podcasts, and I'm all over the board. So it goes from, you know, the Simmons, the Ringer NBA stuff because of the season that we're in, and I'm such a huge basketball fan. It goes over to business with things like, you know, I'm a Galloway fan. I think he's, you know, pretty insightful in the way that he summarizes things, and Prof G. I listen to Marketplace a lot. I listen to Planet Money a lot. But then there's also the storytelling side of things, and whether it's revisionist history or things like, you know, like the rewatchables, it's escaping right now where guys are doing the same thing with classic albums from the past. I mean, classic albums from, you know, my past, and really like deeply dissecting what those songs meant to them at that point in time, and did it stand up to time. So I think podcasts are incredible. Like I can't do virtually anything without music.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. All right, time for questions?
Yeah, I think we got time for one or two really quick questions. We got one up there with Nate. Hold on. I'll run the mic to you.
Thank you all. Thank you, everyone, too, for this production today. It's dope. My name is Nate Nichols, creative director, founder of creative agency and production company Palette Group, and we're listening to you talk, and the trend of the day has been beautiful, coming from Chris and Tara about like heritage and honoring community and how that has become more of where we draw our insights is community. You know, what Clark's did going down to Jamaica doing Badman things with Jamaicans was like beautiful, you know what I mean? My uncle always said Badman wear Clarks. And so I'm just thinking about my moments when I was growing up in like hearing James Brown for the first time, you know, watching The Wiz and like experiencing that sonically, you know, and how that's specific to my community and how I grew up. And how is Bose approaching more community and cultural centric insights versus the demos in like a record day? Like, yeah, duh, you're gonna do record day, right? Like, yeah, check that off. But like, where's the next step for like culture, like true cultural resonance?
So I'm going to answer that, but also I'm going to challenge that statement. Like cultural relevance is music, is entertainment. It's deeply personal. You just said it, right? And I think it's by honoring, promoting, and doing things around those incredible artists that have influenced all of us in these deeply personal ways. So you will see more and more. Like, you know, we're building out a studio. Like, okay, keep this quiet. We're building out a studio. We're going to film it. We're going to do all kinds of, and we're going to invite artists coming in there from not just up and coming and famous artists, but we're also going to open up the studio and allow people that don't have the resources there to come in and make music and use the space. We come from, you know, in order to do that well, I think when you follow sort of the ESG track, it has to be super consistent with who you are, right? And for us, we're born out of science and innovation, so a STEM or a STEAM element, including arts, is really important to us. And so going deep into that and being able to provide deep resources to underserved communities around that area feels very, very authentic to us and what we do. Both from, you know, the funding in arts classes being cut in all of these public schools now, you know, because they can't support it, all the way down through, you know, helping to push a more STEM curriculum to schools that don't have that. So I think that's really big. And I think you're going to see us come out with some incredible enablement around some pretty big names and the causes that they feel are important that align with us as we use it as an accelerant. So we come together with another name that has a big megaphone for that to do good, and that just humanizes our brand, right? And there are all these other things that we do that, you know, like our sound sanctuary for people that you know have some that are somewhere on the spectrum and have problems with like being overloaded by senses, and you know we have rooms set up and occasions set up for various places for those things, and we'll do those things too. But I think it's just our responsibility to do incredible work around that area that we're passionate around, and then elevate that off of storytelling so there's some halo. So it's all of those things.